Hello and welcome. Yet another edition of the Coach's Corner. My name is Walter Beede. Coach Serrano is busy with Johnson University duties this week, so I am fortunate enough to be joined by someone that actually go back all the way to 2006, right after the big Katrina storm. My youngest son, Tyler, huge LSU fan. We went to a camp at LSU, and coach we're talking with today was at the time working with LSU as a former LSU student, currently finished his 10th year at McNeese State University, located in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Justin Hill. Hilly, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your time.
Walter, thank you for having me, man. I can't realize it. I didn't even think about it. It's been as long as it has been. But man, just fortunate to be in the game as long as I have, and just, full circle moment for sure.
And I really am going to enjoy this particular Coach's Corner segment because I really want to familiarize people with the Southland Conference. And, having been a part of the SEC and now after finishing your 10th year at McNeese State, part of the Cowboy baseball program as the head coach. And I really want you to talk about that transition going from the assistant coach to becoming the head coach at McNeese State and how it's been going for you and your staff.
Well, the transition going from assistant to head coach, I think it went as well as it could have. The main reason it went as well as I could have is because I had a chance to work under some really good head coaches. Going back to my high school days, worked 1 year as a high school head coach under Jeff Shakespeare, who ultimately ended up being a head coach at University of Louisiana Monroe. And then working for Mitch Gaspard at Northwestern State, who was at Alabama and now is at Louisiana Tech. And then J.R. Teagues, who was at Southeastern, who was also my junior college coach. So and not only those guys, but also the assistant coaches that I had a chance to rub elbows with every single day. Matt Reiser, who's the head coach at University of Memphis now. Philip Miller, who's at the University of Texas. I mean, I've always said this, man, if I'm a bad head coach, it's my own fault because I came from a really good bloodline.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about McNeese State. It's in what I would consider to be a high school hotbed. Talking with Barb, you're talking, and for those not familiar with Barb High School in Lake Charles, it's perennially one of the top 10 high school programs in the country year after year. And so talk about what makes McNeese State special to a prospective high school student athlete and what drew you specifically to McNeese State.
Well, the fact of being in the conference and being in the state of Louisiana for a long time, even prior to, I mean, I think I've only spent, probably 2 or 3 years outside of the state my entire life, whether it be coaching or playing or whatever it's been. I got a chance to see McNeese. I got the chance to see Lake Charles from the other dugout. And the crowds were always great, and there was an energy there. You knew it was a baseball town. From kids who played in Williamsport, the Little League World Series, to you mentioned Barb High School, but they also play in one of the toughest districts in the state, which includes Sam Houston High School and Sulphur High School. It's just a baseball town. I mean, it's just a baseball town, from travel teams to facilities, all those things. Looking at it from that side of it, it's been if you had a chance to get in, which I did, and, got a chance to interview and was able to ultimately land the job, man, it's been a dream come true. And that's for sure.
When you start to talk about recruiting and, we live in a different world than maybe even as far back as 4 or 5 years. Can you talk to me when you're talking with a potential high school recruit? What is it that you feel is a draw or an enticement for a student athlete and their families to be a part of the McNeese Cowboy family?
Yeah, if you're going to be a part of our program, I think the first thing you look at is not only our university, but also our town. It's big enough to take care of all your needs, but it's also small enough to where you feel like you're not just a number. We know your name, and not that obviously goes within our baseball program, but athletic department, And when you've been here as long as I have, I kind of know everybody, and everybody may kind of know me. And so if there's an issue, we can try to take care of it before it becomes a big issue. But as far as what makes it attractive to a kid, I think that's what we all try to figure out is kids try to answer that question. What's important to you? What do you value? If you're valuing 100,000 people at a football game on a Saturday night, then we can't deliver that for you. We're not going to have that. I mean, we're going to have 15 to 20, and it's going to be good football, but it's not going to be the same thing as maybe a Power Five school or something like that. But with the things we can control our player development. We can control our environment. We can control the resources that we put into things and what we value. I think that's probably my favorite thing about being a head coach. I get to decide what's important. I'm in charge of the thermostat, and you always want more. We always want more money, more facilities, more things, but I think it's all about what can you do with what you have, and can you maximize the opportunities you have in front of you.
I'm so glad you went down that road. I would love for you to kind of convey to parents and student athletes, this time of year, parents are they become prey. They got these recruiting services, and you have all these people telling them that their sons are capable of playing at the Division I or college baseball level. But really, it's an elite student athlete that has the ability to play at your level, Division I baseball. So could you talk to when a freshman comes onto the campus, a high school senior transitioning to college baseball, what is something that you would convey to parents and student athletes that they should really be prepared for making that jump from high school and travel baseball to Division I or college baseball as a whole?
Well, it all starts with your mindset. I mean, there's going to be some practical things that I'll tell you, but everything starts with your mindset and understanding. Because if you don't have your mind right, and understanding what's really important, nothing else really matters on that. And I got this from Tony Robichaux, again, former McNeese head
Legend.
coach, and obviously was at ULL, and just a great mentor of mine. He talked about in one of his famous speeches. Everybody wants to be the man, and what everybody wants to be the man wants to be on the guy on the bottom of the dog pile, wants the guy that wants to make the pitch to end the ball game, get the ground ball hit to get the hit, and that's a worthy thing to do. But more important than that, before you can be the man, you have to be a man, and you have to be a man and understand what it takes to what all those things matter. And that's important. And I'd say, it goes from being a man to being a great teammate. And so to me, the first thing is, can you be a great teammate? And that doesn't mean just lifting others up. That doesn't mean just put everybody else ahead of yourself. That part's important. But also, doing your job, so you're not, you're contributing to the team. And I've got a phrase that I really like to use with our team. And we talked about, whether a freshman comes in and what do you look for, whether it be a transfer, high school kid, however it is. The main question I ask is, how can they contribute to a win? Can this guy contribute to a win? The guy may be a great runner. He may not be ready to get 100 at bats as a freshman. But can he help us win a ball game with his legs? Can he go play defense? And again, we're talking about low level things from a competitive game standpoint, but those things matter. And not everybody. That's not important to everybody. Like we kind of went back and talked about. If you want to be if the Saturday night 100,000 people football game atmosphere is what you want to have, then this isn't going to work for you. But if you want to contribute to a win, if you want to go in and grow, you have to understand that that's going to be part of our program. And what I would probably say from a long game, probably can go to universal in a lot of programs. Try to play the long game. When I say try to play the long game from a career player parent standpoint, look at it, man. I've got 5 years to play for. There's going to be some setbacks. There may be some physical setbacks, whether that be a surgery, whether that be opportunities for playing time. Maybe a transfer comes in and skips you in the line, because that just because you've been there longest doesn't mean you get a chance to play. But just playing the long game is what I would tell you. And that's where it goes back to finding a way to contribute to a win. I would love for everybody to just roll in and just, be the freshman All-American, play every day, and just kind of grow from there. But I mean, those guys, the percentage of those guys being there, that's just not realistic to expect everybody to do that.
So on that note, I try to explain to parents that there was a cosmic shift in the game of college baseball specifically. Yes, partly due to COVID, but that's not the main reason why we're where we're at today. When Major League Baseball made the decision to reduce rounds, to reduce short season teams, they did, contraction. It forced a lot of high school players into college, and it forced a lot of the older college athletes to stay those extra year, the extra year, maybe seek out a grad year. Can you talk about the fact is now that the game at the college level is older, and that the realities are that the transfers, whether it be from university to university or JUCO to a 4-year school, postgraduates, the older player, whether we like it or not, is here to stay. Would you agree with that in college baseball?
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. And that puts just an extra stress on the high school kids. And just that's why I talk about playing the long game, and realizing that it's going to be extra special for the guy to come into the same university and stay the entirety of their career. And look, we've always had junior college guys come in. We had already always had some semblance of transfers, whether it be 40% or 50% of our incoming roster. But the transfer portals actually, has naturally increased those things. But I think you hit the nail on the head between COVID, the extra year, the draft, shrinking down that NIL money. So you've got players not going in the draft and staying. It's just, and then, in addition to that, you've got the one-time transfer. I mean, there's so many different things that are working at the same time with our game. The roster size increase. I mean, there's so many different things that kind of went with that. And it's a challenge. It certainly is a challenge, because what you're talking about with the teams are older, but it also changes not only what you do with your roster, but it changes how you teach. You may not have that kid for 3 years like you anticipated, or 2 years for a transfer, and you've got to be successful with them. I'm not a fool to sit there and think that everybody that I've got on my roster is not going to be here next year. So I've got to do the best I can with them, and I've got to prop them up for whatever's next for them. I certainly want to keep them, and we're going to do the best we can to keep them, to be attractive to them, and that's what that environment's about. But I can't recruit the same way, and I also can't teach the same way. That's for sure.
Now, do you as a staff, do you as a head coach, I mean, if an athlete lived in Wyoming, if an athlete lived in Connecticut, and they said, geez, I have a desire to McNeese State, how do you as a staff prefer to be contacted? Is it a social media connection? Is it an email with a video? How is it that you as a staff would prefer for a potential student athlete to reach out and contact you?
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to reach out to us, I mean, email is great. And the reason email is good is because you can attach all the information that you need. And I would say, as concise as we can be with it, meat and potato information. I think video is so valuable. Not only video, but video with technology. Whether that be a radar gun, whether that be Rapsodo information. And I don't need slow-mo video either. I need game footage as best I can. Any of those things. I don't need music to it. Or I mean, all these production things that happen. All those things are fun, but we just need, hey, what does it look like? What does it look like? Because hey, we consume the game. Like TV. Like if we can get that center field shot, if we can get some things, I mean, there's so many people doing so many great things with that, and you can couple that with metrics. It gives me a decent idea of a player now. And so if we can do that, if we can make it really easy for us to click the link to watch what you're doing, and what you do well. I mean, look, and here's the thing: you're going to do something poorly. I get it. Like we're all going to do something poorly, but show me what you do well. Show me what you do well, and then we can start the conversation.
Yeah, it seems now a lot of student athletes have their own YouTube page or fan page or whatever. So I'd love for you to, Justin, while I have you here for the next few minutes, to talk about the Southland Conference. Now, I happen to know one of the executives in the Southland Conference. She is from Greater New Orleans, but having lived in Louisiana for 6 years, I got to really see a lot of great baseball. I got to see the Southland Conference with Nichols and McNeese, and I'd love for you to share not only the Southland Conference schedule, but your out-of-conference schedule. I mean, you're playing some really high-quality baseball programs throughout not only the Southeast, but the country. But so can you talk a little bit about the quality and caliber of the Southland as well as your out-of-conference games?
For sure. I mean, if you just look at the Southland Conference and look, every conference has changed over the past 5 to 10 years. But if you think about the people that have come through the Southland Conference from a coaching standpoint, Mike Bianco was the head coach here at McNeese at one point in time. We talked about Tony Robichaux. John Cohen was the head coach at Northwestern State. Jim Wells. I mean, you could go on and on and on about how many people have been there. And they're good baseball people, and there have been plenty of good players that have come through. Paul Goldschmidt, who's with the Cardinals, MVP candidate. Wade Miley, who was at Southeastern when I was there. Jace Peterson, who's a McNeese. You could keep going on and on. But the one thing that really comes down to that when I think about the Southland Conference is tough. Like there's just a level of grittiness and toughness that you got to have. To take some of those road trips, to play in some of the environments, that you're going to play in. And they're different environments than you would say in a Starkville or a Baton Rouge, or they're not that type of environment. It's just different. It may be less people, but it could be rowdy. It could be, tough. They're just different. There's just a level of toughness that you got to have to be able to not just be successful in the league, but endure the league and to be able to get through it. It's a challenging league in a lot of ways. There's some really, really good coaches, and there's some really good players. I mean, we had one of the best pitchers in America, in Grant Rogers, who went to the Toronto Blue Jays this past year. I mean, he was in the top 5 all year long, ERA and wins. So, I mean, it's tough. I mean, and what we try to do from a preseason schedule, we try to get ready for that. And this year's no different. We got a couple of road trips. We got one to Texas A&M to open up the year. We got another one later going up to Fayetteville to play the Hogs. So we're going to be battle tested by the time we get there.
Playing teams like A&M and Slosh and those types of teams, they definitely prepare you. But I can't convey strong enough to parents and potential student athletes the Southland Conference. Team for team, you go to watch some of those baseball games, you are watching elite physical athletes that are physically and mentally tough. And a lot of that is the byproduct of the coaches, that the head coaches within that conference. And so, Justin, I just want to kind of wrap up a little bit because you've been gracious enough with your time. I know it's fall baseball, busy time of year. Can you walk a student athlete and parents through a conventional week of fall baseball? Meaning, what time do you guys get up? What does a typical day in the fall look like? And I ask this because a lot of student athletes, they know that their baseball season tends to be in the spring and then through the summer. But when you get to college, it's essentially 11 months a year, and it begins when your feet hit the ground in the fall. So what is a typical day in the life of a McNeese Cowboy in the fall?
Well, for us, one thing I try to do in the fall, because in the spring we're going to take all their days. They got a day off, but that's typically a school day. So I try to be as respectful of our guys' time as we can. As many days off on the weekend that I can give them to possibly go see their family and do the extracurricular activities, and guys go hunting and fishing and doing all those kind of things. I try to do that. I look at our work week for us really Monday through Friday. At least during the first part in skill work. We're in skill work all the way until we get to the fall ball when we start scrimmaging. We'll start the end of September, early October, going to our fall ball. That's when I may take a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon, depending on if we got weather that week. But I really try to go Monday through Friday if I can. But it's basically get up, hey, eat breakfast, go to class, take care of those things, grab some lunch, and then get in your group, find where your group is. We try to be as as organized as we can with how many guys are coming in, in per group. So the afternoon, right now, you'll have about a 45-minute training window that you'll have. It'll be a little bit longer when we get to fall ball and the team stuff. But we try to wrap up sometime around at least no later than 5. And then our guys will go hit their lift about 6 o'clock. We try to get some food in their belly, with our nutrition area before we go do that. And then, man, they got to get the study hall in. They got study hall that they got to do. And so it's a bit of a job for them. It's a bit of a job for them. And there's a lot of things that they got to learn how to do that. And if you want to, and I can, whenever this thing goes to air, I can share with you what our fall ball calendar looks like. So we actually start with an orientation period throughout the first 2 weeks, so we know where everything's at. Do we know where the classrooms are? Do we know where the weight room is? Do we know how to set up the field for BP? Do we those kind of things? And right now we just transition to skill work, then we'll go into fall ball. And fall ball will take us all the way up to the end of the semester with our fall meetings and finals and things like that. But I'll be glad to share it with you because each segment has its own challenges and things that we try to do. So we're in that skill building time right now.
How many athletes do you take on a fall roster?
Well, it's varied, but my goal is to have 40. And the reason my goal is to have 40 is because that's how many we can have on the roster. And if you go look at our roster this year, we're actually at 41. The reason we're at 41 because we have a player who had to have the UCL surgery in his elbow, the Tommy John surgery, so he's out for the year anyway. So for us, there's no cuts this year, and everybody's got their own policy and belief system and how they do it. But I found for the way that I believe and the way that I want to try to run things, that the guy doesn't have to be looking over their shoulder right now. Because if I want the guy to try something, I don't want him to worry about failing right now, because I don't want him to feel like he's the reason that he didn't have success here. I want to give as much ownership for those guys as they can. And when you're more than 40 guys, everybody knows what the rules are, and they know that they could be potentially that way. And so if I can take that stress off of them, I certainly want to do that. This game's hard enough, man. Being a college athlete, college baseball player, we ask a lot of these guys. The last thing I want them to have to worry about is whether or not they're going to get their walking papers.
Well, Justin, I'm not telling you anything I haven't told you before. I consider you to be one of the better baseball minds in the country across all levels. I truly appreciate your candor and sharing with us a little bit about McNeese State University and the Cowboy Way. I look forward to coming down. I'll be down in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. My boys now live in Houston, so when I'm driving through, I'll just go into Lake Charles. I'll stop by and look for some McNeese State gear and watch a fall practice. I'm going to be doing that when Tyler gets home from Japan. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for getting me a chance to talk, and really appreciate what you do for college baseball and the kids that play it.
Well, this is why Dave and I have been doing this for so long. We're trying to help inform and educate not only the student athletes, but the parents as well. So I look forward to seeing you this fall. I will be driving through Lake Charles. I will be stopping into McNeese State for a little fall ball action. But Justin, thank you so much, and look forward to catching up with you in a few weeks.
Hey, I'll be sure and buy lunch, okay?
Sounds like a deal. Parents, if you have any questions, I'm going to have all of Coach Hill's contact information, email address, as well as social media, names, and how to reach out. If you have any questions, I'll make sure I forward them to Coach Hill. But this is a program you want to take a hard look at, especially if you're in the greater Southeast area or have interest in the Southland Conference. I can promise you there's not a better baseball man than Justin Hill, and you can absolutely, as a baseball and life mentor, Coach Hill is a great father, great husband, great life skills, as well as baseball coach. So spend some time, do some homework on McNeese State University, give shout out via email to Coach Hill. Thank you for joining us, and until next week, we will have Rob Woodward from Charlotte University, UNC Charlotte. So give us a follow on Thursdays, and thank you for joining us.